Fingers crossed both these men make the walk. Coming up this weekend, flyweight never die. We have Ultimate Fighter alum Alexandre Pantoja, the Cannibal, taking on Dana White's Contender Series former title challenger Alex Perez. And if you're watching this fight, if you have friends that are at all interested in MMA, this is the litmus test. It's like if you went to a house party and maybe you had friends there and maybe you had family there and you've got like a Spotify playlist on, or if you got Craig's Mix, because everybody knows I'm a big Billy Strings fan. Everybody hit me up with that one last week.
How many house parties do you go to where you also see your family there? Because I don't think I've ever been to one.
Maybe it's like a graduation party or a wedding, but you're playing your own playlist and then you've got the song Lost in the Fire that comes on, the big weekend song, and it starts to play and you hear the synth at the start and you go, well, this can go one of two ways. Either everybody at this party is cool as fuck, or when they get the, I wanna fuck you slow with the lights on, lights on.
They released that song because the last season of Game of Thrones, fun fact.
You have two opportunities. Either you hear the synth and you skip it because grandma's here, or everybody's cool and then we get to the part, well, baby, you can bring a friend, she can ride on top your face, while I fuck you straight.
What does any of this have to do with this fight, Craig?
Either your friends are cool as shit and they like a fight between Alexandre Pantoja and Alex Perez like I like, or they go flyweights, let's skip this one. Don't skip
you
it.
Really wanted to make that work.
The best fight of the weekend, and if you're cool and if you're a fan of Fight Night Picks, you're going to love it. Because for Alexandre Pantoja, he's taken on a wicked level of fights in the UFC. All the best guys except for Demetrius Johnson when he was around. And for Alex Perez, wild run after Dana White's Contender Series, but he hasn't fought since November 2020 when he challenged for the belt and got submitted by Deiveson Figueiredo. And since then, 6 fight bookings have fallen out. 2 of them against Askar Askarov, 4 of them against Matt Schnell, and it's just been unfortunate because I feel like people are going to forget how good Alex Perez is or was through this long layoff.
I'm still trying to just digest the choice of lyrics you decided to sing next to your brother. I feel slightly uncomfortable now. Here's the thing about Alex Perez. He's turning into flyweight's Brandon Roy, and that's not a guy you want to be compared to. The talent is obvious. We all know how good Alex Perez is when he fights, and he's one of the few guys to look good in a first-round stoppage loss against Deiveson Figueiredo. He's beating his leg up, he's landing some good shots of his own, goes for an awful takedown and gets guillotined by one of the most dangerous guillotines of all time, but still, Perez did show a lot of promise on his rise up through the ranks. And I know people like to point to some losses that he had earlier on in his career, but like, there's a reason he got the first title shot coming off Contender Series. He is an extremely talented wrestle boxer who has very good kicks to add in too. He really does remind me of sort of the next generation of like a Joseph Benavidez, because there's a lot of similarities between their games. They both value speed over power. They both have a very well-rounded game. They both excel at their best when they're able to mix their martial arts. But my big point with this fight is Pantoja just seems to be more lethal in a lot of these positions. And with Pantoja, he's one of the few flyweights who can knock you out on the feet with one punch. He can submit you very quick if it does go on the mat. The weird thing about Pantoja is he doesn't necessarily fatigue in the traditional way that a power puncher would. Normally you watch a power puncher, they throw a lot of winging shots, they get very tired as a result. Pantoja will keep his cardio when he's forced to strike, but the one issue with his game plan is if he does have to wrestle a lot throughout his game or throughout his fights, that does tend to wear on him throughout them. I always go to the Askarov fight when I want to point this out because him and Askarov are having very good exchanges on the feet. I'd say Pantoja's getting the better of a lot of them, but when they go into wrestling, Pantoja can have success early, but Askarov is just relentless with a lot of his takedowns and with his grappling, and that's where Pantoja can start to get behind on some of these fights, and that's an area where Perez can have a lot of similar success.
That's Perez's biggest X factor, is his wrestling. Okay. When you look at his fights, I mean, obviously, you brought up the leg kicks. I mean, people forget how good Jussier Formiga was. I mean, he beat Deiveson Figueiredo, but, you know, he's past 35, at 125. He's taking on Alex Perez, and credit to Perez. Those leg kicks, lethal. He's able to get a performance bonus there. He had a performance when he submitted Jordan Espinoza as well. Big bonus there. Obviously, losses in the UFC is 6-2. The one for the title, and he got TKO'd on the ground by Joseph Benavidez.
Surprising loss at the time.
To be the interim champ challenger, you got to beat the interim champ challenger 2 times? I don't know. Poor Joe B, the way that he had to go out. But when you do look at it for Perez, out of all of the fights that came and went out of the 6, he was supposed to fight at UFC 271 against Matt Schnell, and he weighed in at 128 pounds, and then they wouldn't let him fight. So you hate to see that. Originally, this was supposed to be Alex Perez versus Askar Askarov for a couple of cards ago. It was supposed to be the big ABC card.
Hopefully we still get that fight.
Yeah, Askarov out, so we do get Pantoja. And for Pantoja, you bring it up. He struggles in some of those wrestling sequences. Doesn't throw a ton of kicks, but he makes them count as well. But when you look at this one, if you're just a numbers guy and you're putting the glasses up, Alex Perez is actually better in every single statistical category except for one, striking accuracy. 48% for Pantoja, 47% for Alex Perez. But where I would counter that argument is Pantoja's taken on the way better level of competition all the way up through.
And to quote Daniel Cormier, not every significant strike is created equally. Like, Pantoja hits a whole hell of a lot harder than Alex Perez does, and there's nothing either guy can do physically that's ever going to change that. Like, Perez's body style and whole fighting style is, I'm going to hit you with a lot of volume with my boxing, make you get your hands up, then I'm going to go in for the takedown, then I'm going to mix in the leg kick. It's a very segmented game, but they all do work together in a really nice package. The issue is, Pantoja, especially for those first 2 rounds, not say he's the perfect fighter by any means, because there are guys who are a little bit more of a specialist than he is. Guys like Askarov who can out-wrestle him. Guys like Figueiredo who can slightly outstrike him, and I'd really say Figueiredo's the only guy who can have a lot of success with him on the feet. And that's what my big issue is with picking Perez in this matchup. Think about if you're Alex Perez in this fight. You can't box your opponent. You can throw kicks with them, but it's also going to make you susceptible to getting taken down by the guy who's very dangerous with his own jiu-jitsu. And even if Perez is able to take down Pantoja, that's no cakewalk either. I mean, Pantoja's good at getting back up to his feet. He is a very crafty grappler off his back, too. I was bringing up to Craig that wild, sequence where he went through the legs of Askarov and somehow took his back. It reminded me, Fabricio Verdum did that against Alexander Volkov before he lost to him, but it's a very unorthodox method that you don't often see. It's very Damian Maia-esque. It's all based off a single leg takedown where instead of completing the takedown, you then basically give your back between the legs and take the back of your opponent. It's some high-level stuff, to say the least.
If you like Dana White's Contender Series, Andreas Luna Martinetti did that in his last fight before making his Contender Series appearance.
So for Pantoja, I do think he is the complete package. It's been really difficult for him to break through because, again, he had that very close fight with Askar Askarov. That Askar did win, but still a very close fight. And then he had one of the greatest fights in the division's history against Evison Figueiredo, where those guys just throw bombs at each other. Pantoja gets dropped in the second round, rallies in the third to where they're just throwing canned heat at each other. Great fight between the two. But that's the thing for Pantoja. I really do enjoy watching his fighting style. I would love to see him fight for the title one day. But he is 32 years old, so at some point he's going to have to get that marquee win that does get him to the top of the ranks to get in that title picture. Because right now he's at least on the same level as Askarov, you could say. But the fact that he has looked so good in his last 2 performances maybe has pushed him ahead. But if he beats Perez, that's my real question. Does he fight Figueiredo next? Does he fight the loser of the co-main event? I don't really know exactly what his path is to the title. I just know he gets a lot closer to it if he is able to beat Alex Perez.
No more Walid Ismail as manager for Devson Figueiredo. So Figueiredo's now got a California connection in his management. We'll see if he moves up to 135. The top half is kind of log-jammed in this division. Obviously, you wouldn't be if you didn't have an interim fight at the top of this card. I think the winner of this fight, if it's Perez, probably one more. Pantoja wins. He gets the title shot. Kind of like last weekend, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades. If Aspinall wins, title shot, Blades.
Pantoja's 2-0 against Brandon Moreno, too, and that's something nobody talks about. Pantoja's the reason Brandon Moreno was the LFA bantamweight champion. I guess he wasn't the flyweight champion. It was bantamweight, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that was the thing. Pantoja beat the brakes off him in the Ultimate Fighter. Then they did the rematch when a lot of people were confident Brandon Moreno was going to look a lot better, and he looked like a drunk Dominic Cruz in that fight. Pantoja beat him so bad.
Pantoja, again, pitter-patter, let's get out of Letterkenny against Manel Kopp and Kopp's UFC debut. And that was a year and 4 months ago. Pantoja doesn't fight all that often. 9 months ago, and again, neither does Alex Perez. And looked great against Brandon Royval finishing him. So the odds in this one, Pantoja open to -275, -165 right now. For Perez, open +235, +138 right now. I doubt, listen, surprise test it is to you, that these votes are even close on Tapology. I'm going to say over under 80% Pantoja.
That's what I was going to put it at, so I'll say over, I guess.
I think it's going to be a competitive fight. We have this as a fight of the night. 90% Pantoja out of 1,178 total votes. 51% by decision, 37% by submission. For the 10% that have Perez, 59% by decision. Some change on the finishes, Matt. I think Alexandre Pantoja wins this fight.
So do I.
I don't like the layoff out of Perez. I don't know how it's going to affect him, so take that for what it's worth. And I started the video off not by song quote, but by hopefully we get this fight. But when I look at it for Pantoja, I can't lose you, babe. I don't think he's going to lose.
You just woke up this morning being like, I'm going to sing The Weeknd in these videos no matter how log-jammed it feels. Here's the thing. Pantoja's way more dangerous and it's not even close. If you're on the mat with him, you're going to get choked out. Brandon Royval's a really good grappler. A really good one. And he didn't even look like he should belong in the grappling department with Pantoja.
Pantoja is the perfect training opponent for Alex Perez and Kyoji Horiguchi at American Top Team.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And for Pantoja, I think he could beat Kai Kara France. He's already beaten Brandon Moreno twice. He arguably, didn't arguably beat Askarov, but they fought to a very close fight to where you could make an argument where in a rematch, Pantoja would have a great chance. Like, I look at him as a championship quality fighter. He's had close fights with guys who have held the belt. He's beaten guys who have held the belt. He's just never been able to have sort of the proper matchmaking to get him into that position. And I do feel like this is sort of the UFC giving him one, you know? It's a guy with a long layoff who's had a lot of injuries. There's a lot of question marks about whether or not he can even make the weight class. So I do like Pantoja for all those reasons. I like him stylistically and for a lot of the static surrounding this fight as well.
We're going with the Cannibal in this fight,
Wild
Alexandre Pantoja, to get the win, and I can't wait for this fight. Let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Is it the best fighter that's ever come from Dana White's Contender Series, Alex Perez, or will it be Ultimate Fighter 24's Pantoja? Big fights left on this main card. Derrick Lewis taking on Sergey Pavlovich. You're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.